right, so what was going on in Spain? Well, in Spain, the Visigoths, the Germans, had been in control for the previous 200 years. And they are the ancestors of modern Spanish identity. Does that make sense? So if you're Spanish, your ancestors are the Goths. Does that make sense? And it's during this same time period, these German speakers basically conquer the Roman Empire. They also conquer their way into Britain, and they become the English. Do you get that? So what does that mean? It means before 500 AD, no, 400 and something AD, there weren't any English people living in England. Do you know where they were living? Germany. Yeah? All right. Now, the Goths seized Spain from the rule of the ailing Roman Empire that was collapsing during this period. So what did Musa do next? He sent a reconnaissance mission of 500 African converts to Islam into Spain, led by an African called Tarif. Using 4 ships supplied by Musa, they landed in Spain and they plundered a port. And they gave the port a new name, Tarifa. What about that? Named after Tarif, right? And what happened is the Moors imposed a special tax at that port, and that's the origin of the word tariff. Right? Did we know this? Aren't you glad you're here? All right, so in 711, Musa sent a second and more formidable African army into Spain, led by Tariq ibn Ziyad. Tariq ibn Ziyad was an African, and he led an expeditionary force of 6,700 African soldiers, 300 Arab translators and propagandists, and they occupied a portion of Spain, and then they renamed that part that they occupied the Rock of Tariq, Jebel Tariq, Gibraltar. We understanding this? Yeah? So that too is named after an African. In the year 1048, Yahya ibn Ibrahim, ruler of the Berbers of the desert, made a pilgrimage to Mecca. He returned to North Africa with a religious teacher from Mecca called Ibn Yazin, and Yazin attempted to teach Islam among the desert Berbers. He failed and was chased away. So everyone then ended up fleeing to Tekra on the Senegal River. So we're now in Senegal. There they established a monastery and lived as recluses, and then people joined this movement from Senegal, and they became known as El Morabitun, or in English, Morabites. Another word is the French one, Marabout. Does that make sense? These are all West Africa now. And the word that you see in the literature is El Moravids. Now, in Tekra, the movement grew. Tekrarians wanted their independence from ancient Ghana and saw the new movement as a force that could win that independence. So in 1062, the Almoravids, the same group from the desert and now people from Senegal, they established Marrakesh, which is the African capital of their empire. So Marrakesh in Morocco used to be a black city. 1076, they conquered ancient Ghana and held it for some years. Tekra became independent of Ghanaian imperial rule. By the time we get to 1082, there were hundreds of Moors and Arabs streaming into Africa, fleeing the campaigns of the Christians because the Moorish rule, the Arab rule in Spain had become unstable and the Europeans were kicking off, so people fled to Africa. They visited Yusuf, leader of the Berbers, and they begged him to get an army together to help, to assist the Muslims against the Christian onslaught that was taking place in Spain. Yusuf raised an army said to have included every ethnic group in the Western Desert and sent them across the sea into Spain, where the African army beat the Christians at Zalaka 1086. That is Yusuf ibn Tashfin. We feeling that? Now, just to put it in perspective, Yusuf ibn Tashfin, can you see Mansa Musa's on the same map? Yes. Who's darker? Right, so can you see the Moor is darker than the Negro? Are you feeling this? Now, isn't that powerful evidence? So anyone wants to run up their mouth, show them this. All right, so did they build anything in Africa?